A coworker who spent more time gossiping than working suddenly demanded my corner desk, saying, "I deserve a better view." When I refused, she moved my things and smirked, "Too late, I'm settled in." Seconds later, our boss walked over and said, "Let's talk about where you'll be sitting permanently." Alright, so here's how this all went down. I work in a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago. The office is one of those open-plan spaces, gray cubicles, fluorescent lights, and a break room that smells like burnt coffee. I'd been at the company for about 5 years, and in that time, I had earned the best desk in the office, a spacious corner spot with a view of the skyline. It wasn't just about the view, though. It was away from the main foot traffic, so I could actually get work done without hearing every single conversation. It was mine, and everyone knew it. Enter Claire. Claire had been here for about 2 years, but in that time, I don't think I had ever actually seen her do any real work. She was the type of coworker who somehow always looked busy but never produced anything. She spent more time standing by people's desks, whispering office gossip, than actually sitting at her own. Her desk was arguably the worst one, right next to the copy machine and the office supplies shelf. Every time someone printed something, she had to hear the whirring and clunking. Every time someone needed a stapler or some printer paper, they were standing right next to her. But that was the desk she had been assigned. That was the desk she deserved. At least, until she decided she didn't. One random Tuesday morning, Claire waltzed over to my cubicle like she had something important to say. She leaned against my desk, sipping her overpriced latte with that self-satisfied smirk she always had when she was about to be a problem. "I think I deserve this desk," she said. I didn't even look up from my computer. "What?" She gestured around dramatically, like she was showing off a new apartment. "This desk. It's way better than mine. I need a better view." I let out a short laugh, thinking she was joking. "Yeah, that's not happening." She sighed, like I was being difficult. "Come on. You've had it long enough. It's my turn." "My turn?" Like we were kids sharing a toy? I turned my chair to face her. "Claire, it doesn't work like that. Desks don't rotate." She pouted. "I just think it's unfair. You don't even appreciate the view." That's when I realized she was actually serious. "I'm not switching desks with you," I said, turning back to my screen. "Fine." She walked away, and I thought that was the end of it. I should have known that woman doesn't take no for an answer. That same day, I went out for lunch with a few coworkers. We were gone for maybe 40 minutes. When I came back, something felt off. My corner desk, the one I had worked at for 5 years, the one I had decorated with my things, the one where I had built my routine, was now occupied by Claire. She was sitting in my chair, adjusting my monitor like she was setting up her workspace. My laptop was gone. My notebooks, my coffee mug, even my stupid little stress ball, all of it had been relocated to the crappy desk by the copy machine. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to process what I was seeing. Then Claire looked up, all smug and relaxed, and said, "Too late. I'm settled in." I felt my jaw clench. "You moved my stuff?" She shrugged. "Yeah, I figured I'd just make the change for us. You weren't here, so I thought, why wait?" I was so angry I could actually feel my pulse in my ears. "Put my stuff back," I said, my voice low and firm. She smiled. "I don't think so. I mean, I'm already here. And you're already over there." I turned and looked at my new desk, the one she had dumped all my things onto. The monitor was at a weird angle, the chair was uncomfortable, and the entire area smelled vaguely of burnt toner. I turned back to Claire. "Move. Now." She laughed. Like this was funny. "Oh, relax. It's just a desk. You'll get used to it." Oh, okay. I took a slow breath, turned on my heel, and walked straight to Mr. Grant's office. Mr. Grant was our department head. He had been with the company for 15 years, and he had zero patience for nonsense. I knocked on his door. "Claire took my desk," I said the second he looked up. He frowned. "What?" I explained, and for a moment, he just stared at me. Then, slowly, he put his pen down. "So let me get this straight," he said. "You went to lunch, and when you came back, Claire had physically moved your stuff and taken your desk?" "Yes." His expression went completely blank, which was a bad sign. "Let's go see this," he said, standing up. We walked back to my desk, and Claire was still there, acting like nothing had happened. Mr. Grant stopped beside her chair, arms crossed. "Claire." She looked up, all innocent and wide-eyed. "Oh, hi, Mr. Grant." He nodded at her. "What's going on here?" Claire did a fake little laugh. "Oh, I just thought I'd switch desks with me. I mean, I think I've earned a better workspace, don't you?" Mr. Grant raised an eyebrow. "Earned?" Claire smiled. "I mean, I've been here for 2 years. And my current desk just isn't fair, you know? It's all about productivity, and I just think I could get so much more done here." I watched Mr. Grant's face carefully. There was no amusement in his eyes. Then, he smiled. All right, he said. Let's talk about where you'll be sitting, permanently. Claire sat up straighter, thinking she had won. But then Mr. Grant continued. Because it won't be here. Her face fell. You're moving me? She asked, her voice uncertain. Mr. Grant nodded. Oh, not just moving. We're making a permanent adjustment to your workspace. She blinked. To where? He smiled. And that's when I knew this was about to be good. Claire sat there, frozen. She had expected Mr. Grant to tell me to deal with it. Maybe even let her keep the desk. Instead, he was looking at her like an issue that needed to be solved. You're moving to the basement, Mr. Grant said, calm as ever. Silence. The entire office went dead quiet. Everyone around us, coworkers peeking from behind cubicles, people pretending to print stuff just to eavesdrop, stopped what they were doing. Even the air conditioning hum seemed to fade out. Claire blinked. Twice. Then she forced a laugh. Wait. What? Mr. Grant smiled, the kind of smile that isn't actually friendly. The storage office downstairs. That's where you'll be working from now on. A few gasps. Someone actually choked on their coffee. The basement. We all knew about it. Technically, it was still part of the office, but no one worked there. It was where broken chairs, old filing cabinets, and forgotten office supplies went to die. There were exactly 2 desks down there, both covered in dust, and the whole place smelled like mildew and bad decisions. Claire turned red. You can't be serious. Mr. Grant nodded. Completely serious. But why? She demanded. Mr. Grant gestured around. Because you clearly have trouble respecting workspaces. Claire looked around for help, but no one spoke up for her. No one wanted to. She swallowed hard, clenching her jaw. This is ridiculous. This isn't fair. Mr. Grant tilted his head. Not fair? He glanced at me. You stole me's desk. You physically moved their stuff without permission. But now, when you lose your desk, suddenly it's not fair. Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she tried again. Okay, fine. I'll move back, she said quickly, her voice shifting to fake sweetness. No big deal. We can just go back to how things were. Mr. Grant smiled. Oh no, Claire. That offer expired the second you moved someone else's stuff. Claire's eyes widened. You can't just move me to the basement. That's not even a real workspace. He shrugged. It is now. And with that, Mr. Grant turned on his heel and walked away. Claire sat there for a solid 10 seconds, silent and shaking. Then, slowly, she stood up, turned to me, and whispered, You're going to regret this. Oh, okay. I crossed my arms. I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself. She gave me a nasty smile. No, you want to Grant like a snitch. And now? You're gonna pay for it. I held her gaze. Good luck with that. Let me know how revenge works out from the basement. Her nostrils flared. But instead of saying anything else, she stormed off. And that? That should have been the end of it. But Claire wasn't the type to take a loss. She was about to make things worse for both of us. Claire moved her stuff down to the basement office the next day. For a while, everything seemed peaceful. The office felt lighter without her stomping around, gossiping and distracting people. I actually started getting work done without overhearing her talking about who was dating who or who was secretly job hunting. But then, the rumors started. Little things at first. People would pause when I entered a room. Conversations shifted the second I got close. Then I overheard 2 coworkers whispering. I heard, me, actually set Claire up. Yeah, I mean, it's kinda messed up. She just went straight to Grant and got her banished. Oh, so that's the game we're playing now. Claire wasn't just going down quietly, she was dragging me with her. She started spreading stories, twisting the situation. I was just joking about switching desks and, me, ran to Grant to get rid of me. They've been gunning for me ever since I got hired. I think they just hated that I was friendly with everyone. She made it sound like I was some power-hungry office tyrant, hell-bent on destroying her career. And it was working. People started acting different. Colder. Some avoided me entirely. And then it got worse. One morning, Mr. Grant pulled me aside. You need to be careful, he said quietly. I frowned. What? He sighed. HR got an anonymous complaint about you. I felt my stomach drop. What kind of complaint? He looked at me carefully. Someone accused you of, he hesitated, creating a hostile work environment. My head snapped up. Excuse me? He nodded. The complaint says you bullied Claire. That you got her moved to the basement on purpose just to push her out of the company. I actually laughed. A short, shocked laugh. That's insane. She stole my desk. I know, he said, holding up a hand. I shut it down. I told HR I personally witnessed Claire take your workspace. But I wanted you to know she's trying to play dirty. Oh. Oh, so that's how she wants to play this. I clenched my jaw. So what now? Mr. Grant leaned back. I was going to let her keep her job. Let her rot in the basement until she decided to quit on her own. He exhaled. But now? Now she's trying to ruin someone else's career just because she got caught. I nodded slowly. So what are we going to do about it? Mr. Grant gave me a long look. Then he smiled. A dangerous smile. And that's when I knew Claire had officially messed with the wrong person. Claire thought she was clever. She thought spreading rumors and filing a fake HR complaint would be enough to get me fired, or at least make my life so miserable that I'd quit. But what she didn't know was that Mr. Grant wasn't just a boss who tolerated drama, he was a boss who hated it. And now? She had pissed him off. The day after Mr. Grant warned me about the complaint, he called Claire into his office. I wasn't there to hear it, but the way she stormed out afterward, red-faced and practically shaking, told me everything. Later, Mr. Grant found me in the break room. He casually poured himself a coffee and said, way too calmly, HR confronted Claire about her complaint. Turns out she had no actual evidence. I raised an eyebrow. No evidence because it never happened? He nodded. Exactly. And HR doesn't take false reports lightly. So she's officially on a final warning now. Oh, that was beautiful. Claire had tried to ruin my career, and instead, she ended up one step away from unemployment. But as much as I wanted to celebrate, I knew this wasn't over yet. And I was right. After her failed HR stunt, Claire did something really stupid. She tried to frame me. One afternoon, I got back from a meeting to find an email from HR sitting in my inbox. Subject: unauthorized access to sensitive files. I frowned and clicked on it. It was a warning email, saying that someone had attempted to access files they weren't authorized to view. Specifically, client contracts and financial records. And apparently, that someone was me. Except I never touched those files. I immediately went to Mr. Grant. This is insane. I didn't do this. He didn't even look surprised. He just sighed heavily and said, I had a feeling this might happen. Then he called IT. Now, let me tell you something about our IT guy, Mike. Mike had been with the company for over a decade. He wasn't just good at his job, he was the kind of guy who enjoyed catching people in lies. Mr. Grant asked him to check who actually tried to access the files using my credentials. 10 minutes later, Mike came back with a printout. And guess whose computer had been used? Claire's. She had logged into my computer, probably when I was away from my desk, and tried to use my credentials to access the files. But what she didn't know was that every login attempt was automatically recorded with a device ID. Meaning? She had basically signed her own confession. Mr. Grant dragged Claire into his office the second he saw the IT report. I don't know exactly how the conversation went, but I do know that her voice got louder and louder until the entire office could hear her. It wasn't me, she practically shrieked. Mr. Grant's voice was lower, but firm. We have proof, Claire. I was hacked, she tried. A short silence. Then Mr. Grant, completely unimpressed, deadpanned, You're really trying to say someone hacked your computer just to frame you for framing someone else? Claire stammered. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe IT is wrong. Oh yeah, that'll work. Blame IT, the one department that has actual forensic records of everything. After about 10 more minutes of desperate excuses, she was escorted out of Mr. Grant's office. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. She avoided eye contact with everyone. And then? She disappeared for the rest of the day. But Claire wasn't done yet. At this point, any normal person would have quit. She had been caught lying to HR. She had been caught trying to frame me. She had burned every bridge she had. But instead of quitting, she did something even crazier. She filed a lawsuit. Not against me. Against the company. A few weeks after she stopped showing up to work, HR sent out an email. It was vague, just saying that a former employee had filed a claim and that no one should discuss details with outside parties. But guess what? One of my friends in HR spilled the tea. Claire was suing for wrongful termination, even though she technically hadn't been fired yet. Her argument? That she was being punished unfairly for a simple misunderstanding, and that she was being targeted unfairly in a toxic work environment. I almost laughed when I heard that. Targeted unfairly? She literally tried to frame me for stealing company files. I asked my HR friend, so, is this lawsuit even serious? She shook her head. Not really. She doesn't have a case. But the company still has to go through the motions. So now? Claire wasn't just going after me, she was going after the entire company. And this time, she was about to lose everything. Claire's lawsuit was a joke, but the company had to take it seriously. For weeks, lawyers got involved. HR had to dig through emails, logs, and security footage. And Mr. Grant? He was livid. At this point, she wasn't just a workplace nuisance, she was an actual legal threat. But Claire had one major problem. She was stupid. And the one thing you shouldn't do when filing a lawsuit? Leave behind mountains of proof that you're full of crap. While Claire was busy playing victim, the company's legal team was building a case against her. IT pulled every log from the day she tried to frame me. HR pulled every complaint that had ever been filed against her, including multiple people who had reported her for creating a toxic work environment. And Mr. Grant? He was digging through old emails. Because Claire wasn't just a liar, she was a terrible liar. And that's how he found the email. One morning, Mr. Grant called me into his office. He had a printed email in front of him, and when I sat down, he slid it over to me. Read that. It was an email Claire had sent to a friend outside the company. A friend who still worked at her old job. And in it, she admitted everything. I don't even care if I get fired at this point. I'm gonna drag me down with me. They made me look stupid in front of the whole office. Now it's my turn. I already filed the complaint, and if that doesn't work, I'll just accidentally access some files under their name. No one will know it was me. I stared at it. She wrote this down? Mr. Grant smirked. Yep. And sent it from her work email. Oh, she was so screwed. The next morning, HR called Claire in for a final review of her case. What she didn't know. Mr. Grant and the company's lawyer were sitting in that meeting, too. I wasn't in the room. But I sure as hell heard what happened. At first, Claire played dumb. I was just trying to do my job, she whined. I was unfairly punished. Then they showed her the email. And according to my HR friend, she completely lost it. First, she denied writing it. Then she claimed it was fake. Then she accused IT of hacking her. And finally, she snapped. So what? Who cares? That desk was mine. I deserved it. Oh, there it was. The entire truth, screaming out of her mouth. And everyone in that room heard it. 15 minutes later, Claire stormed out of the meeting, tears running down her face, absolutely shaking with rage. She grabbed her stuff from the basement office while everyone watched. The break room had a clear view of the elevator, and let me tell you, no one pretended to look away. The second she stepped into the hallway, people started whispering. One guy from accounting even slow-clapped. And Claire? She turned to look at me, eyes burning with hatred. I hope you're happy, she spat. And I just sipped my coffee. Because for the first time in months, I actually was. Claire's lawsuit? Dropped immediately. Not only did she lose her job, but she also blacklisted herself from every major company in the industry. Turns out, HR had connections. And when hiring managers called to ask about her employment history, they didn't lie. They just told the truth. Claire tried getting another job in Chicago for months. Last I heard, she moved to a different city. Probably still blaming me for everything that happened. But here's the thing. I didn't ruin her career. She did that all by herself. And me? I'm still at my desk. Still drinking my coffee. Still enjoying the view she tried to steal. And every time I see that empty desk where she used to sit, I remind myself, karma always delivers.